Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Shannon and I'm a pet portrait and wildlife artist and I specialise in coloured pencils, so if that's of interest to you then keep watching. So today I've got another draw with me video, or should I say draw with us video, because I'm going to be joined by fellow wildlife artist Zoe Fitchet today. So if you've been following along with us over on Instagram, or if you've watched any of my recent studio vlogs, you're probably already aware of the fact that myself and Zoe have been invited by a company called Trova Trip to host an incredible once-in-a-lifetime group travel experience. So this September we're going to be flying out to Nairobi in Kenya with some of you guys to do an 8-day action-packed trip full of all sorts of different activities such as safari game drives and all sorts of other stuff. So I thought it'd be a nice idea to sit down and chat while we're working on a drawing and just fill you in on all of the details of the trip if it's something that you'd like to come and join along with too. So without further ado, let's get drawing. Hello, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. So I thought it'd be nice if you could just do a little introduction about yourself.
Yeah, of course. So I'm Zoe Fitchet. I'm a wildlife conservation artist and I'm a mum, which actually takes up more of my time at the moment. But I draw in coloured pencils and I also do a bit of painting as well. And yeah, just love animals basically.
So what are you going to be drawing today?
So I'm a little way into a piece that is a wild dog. They're one of my favourite African species. So yeah, really looking forward to doing a bit more of that one.
And I'm going to be drawing these two giraffes which I've been working on. We're both doing a piece that we're going to donate to the East African Wildlife Society, which we'll go into a little bit more later. But yeah, we're both going to try and raise some money for wildlife conservation with this. So what paper are you using for yours?
So I usually work on Fabriano Artistico hot pressed watercolour paper, and for the piece that I did of the zebra, I was using the 640 weight, which is the much thicker fancy one, but for this wild dog I'm back on the 300. So I've got some decent 300, which is a bit rare these days, but yeah, so he's on the lighter weight.
I used to love that paper, but I've just not been getting on with it recently. I'm using the Bockingford hot press watercolour paper for mine, but I'm not the biggest fan of it, I have to admit. It's a little bit spongy and I'm using the 300 GSM one, but I'm managing to get through it alright with this drawing. But yeah, I'm also using the Faber-Castell polychromos and I think you use the same pencils as me.
Yeah, I've got those and the Caran d'Ache luminance as well.
Yes, I've actually used a few of those as well because they're a little bit creamier and they have some more shades, don't they? So yeah, like I said, these will be donated to the East African Wildlife Society, which will be actually visiting one of the projects when we go over to Kenya. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so we've got a day that we're going to be spending with some of the East African wildlife team, and we're going to be going to visit one of their projects which is focusing on the rangers. So we probably will get to see some wildlife as well on that day, but the actual visit is to find out what the rangers do, how they protect the wildlife that is outside of the reserves. So you've got all the national parks and everything that does keep the regulations in place to keep the wildlife safe, but outside of those areas it's just a bit more challenging, and yeah, so these rangers have to go out and fight for all the animals and make sure they're nice and safe. So it'll be really interesting to find out what they do. They usually have dogs as well, so that's always nice. We'll get to see some of the dogs, I expect, and yeah, it'll just be really great to find out what they do and what the work that we do to raise money and stuff actually goes towards.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. It's actually one of the sort of like bespoke details that we've added onto the itinerary. So myself and Zoe have both sort of created this trip by adding our own twist on it with things that we're passionate about. So there is going to be some art and obviously wildlife conservation involved in it, but overall it's quite like an activity packed trip for anyone. So we'll go through exactly what we're going to be doing on this trip together now. Okay, so this is an 8-day trip in September of this year. So we'll be travelling out on the 27th of September and we'll be coming home on the 4th of October. And on the first day, we'll be flying into Nairobi and we will be having a welcome dinner to meet everyone and like get to know everyone. And then later on that day, we'll be going to our first accommodation, which is the Boulevard Hotel Nairobi. So we'll be staying in hotels on the first and last day of this trip, and then the rest of it we're going to be camping, but we'll go into that a little bit more later. So for day 2...
So we'll be going to visit the East African Wildlife Project on day 2. So they're based in Suswa, and we will be getting to meet the rangers and finding out all about their project. So we'll also be able to get out into the bush a little bit more, if you like, and see some animals as well. But it's not an official safari trip, but I expect we will see some wildlife because they're based out in in the savannah. So yeah, that'll be really exciting to find out all about them. And then while we're doing that, because it kind of ties into the artwork side of it that we do, that's all about wildlife conservation, we'll just take that opportunity just to talk about how art can play a role in supporting wildlife conservation and stuff like that. So a little bit more of an informal chat, but it's just nice to sort of share that. If anyone that's on the trip is interested, then we can just discuss, how art can play quite an important role in supporting wildlife.
And then on day 3, we'll be setting off for our first safari game drive. So this will be a morning safari, and we'll be travelling over to the Aberdare National Park. This is like more of the lush green sort of scenery that we'll see here. And there'll be lots of different animals that we might potentially see, like zebras, elephants, giraffes, and we might even get to see black rhinos here. So this should be a really fun safari game drive. And our breakfast that day is included at the campsite. All of our food is included in this trip, so you don't need to worry about anything like that. And then we'll be heading over to our second campsite that evening.
So for day 4, we are going to be doing something a little bit more adventurous. We're going to be going for a hike around the Sanachi Crater Lake. So that is all lush green trees and loads of water. We might find some of the migrating lesser flamingos, which will be quite cool. And then it's a 5-hour hike, so it's quite a long one. You go about 7.5 miles, so we'll definitely need our walking boots for this one, but it'll be an amazing opportunity to see some slightly different wildlife and some of the surroundings. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that one because it's just going to be amazing just to see all of those different parts of Africa. So after we've done the hike, we then have the option to go on a bicycle safari. So we'll get to see even more wildlife, but that is in the Hell's Gate National Park. With an 11-mile ride through Hell's Gate, we'll be able to see things like zebras and gazelles and buffaloes, so the non-predatory animals who won't be in any major danger. But it is actually the place that the inspiration for the Lion King is found. So we'll be able to see the iconic Pride Rock as well. So that'll be really fun to see that.
That cycle safari is optional. So if you think that doing a hike and a bike ride might be a little bit too intense, you don't have to come on the cycle safari. It's like a little add-on when you book the trip. Of course, you don't have to do any of the things. Like if there's anything that you don't want to do, you don't have to feel obliged to do it.
Yeah, the guide will be able to make sure there's someone safely at camp or that comes along for the drive, and then there's someone somewhere for them to sit out if they want to. So yeah, you won't just be abandoned in the middle of Africa on your own.
And then on day 5, this is when we'll really start with the big safari game drive. So we'll set off to the Masai Mara, which is the area that we're most likely to see lions. And we will stop at the Loweta Hills, which is like a traditional home of the Masai tribe. We'll get to meet the tribe, learn about their way of life. And then we will go on a evening safari game drive where we'll get to see things like lions, elephants, rhinos, buffaloes, leopards, just basically everything that you could see we might potentially see in the Masai Mara. There's also a chance of seeing the Great Wildebeest Migration as well, which is what the Masai Mara is really famous for. And then that evening we will be camping in the Masai Mara as well.
So for day 6, it's full of game drives. So we are already based in the Masai Mara, so we don't need to go very far. We've already done the main travel over that way, so we have time for 2 big 5 safari drives. So we've got one in the morning where we'll be able to keep an eye out for the elephants, rhinos, giraffes, all of those kind of animals, which would be amazing. We'll then have lunch all together at camp or out and about, wherever the guide takes us. And then in the afternoon, we will have time for another big 5 safari game drive and be able to see even more wildlife. So it'll be the perfect day for seeing wildlife, maybe taking loads of photos. And yeah, we're just going to be out on the road all day just looking at wildlife, so really looking forward to that day.
The good thing about all these different like game drives in the morning, the afternoon, the evening is that we'll get to see different animals that are sort of more active at different times as well. Like I've seen videos where they see elephants like in the pitch black at night time, and the guides will also know like what you're more likely to see when as well. So we'll get every opportunity to see as much as possible by doing all these different safaris. So then on day 7, we will pack up our camp and we will head out to the Karita forest for a very exciting day of zip lining. So this is going to be quite like a fun activity, but it's going to be an exhilarating 2-hour zipline course with really good views of the surrounding forest. And then we will have a farewell dinner later on that evening because it is our final day of the trip. And we'll play some games and, talk about all the memories and the animals that we've seen. And we'll have a final night in the hotel, like we said. But one thing to mention that we haven't added in just yet is that we are going to be doing art workshops in the downtime throughout the week. So it's not a set day and then that's it. We'll sort of just be casually like doing little bits and bobs along the weeks. And then for day 8, we'll be travelling back to Nairobi Airport and going our separate ways and heading home. So it's going to be an action-packed trip. We'll be doing plenty of stuff. And I think by the end of it, we'll probably be tired out from all of the different things that we'll be doing. But one thing we've not really mentioned before about this trip that we'd like to go into a bit more detail is the fact that we get a local guide included with the trip who will be staying with us throughout the whole week. And Zoe, you've been on one of these trips before. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about the guides that they include?
Yeah, so I travelled with Trova Trip last year. We went to Costa Rica, and I also then went to the Galapagos Islands with them as well. And so in each destination, wherever we went to, we were given a guide throughout the whole trip of Costa Rica. We had this guy called Alejandro, and he was a very quirky, funny little guy, but he was so knowledgeable of the local area. When we went to do this hike around a volcano, he was able to spot certain things because he knew roughly where they stayed or where to look for them. So he found so many different little animals here and there. We had like vipers on trees which were completely camouflaged, which we would never ever have seen them without his help. And then he had this really long scope where he was able to find all of the other animals a bit further away, like owls and sloths and big snakes up in the trees and stuff. So yeah, it was absolutely amazing to have him there, and it just meant that we could go on this hike and you're literally just following the leader. So we went all the way through all these winding little trails, but we didn't have to worry about, have we taken the wrong turn, or like looking at a map or anything like that. We literally just followed this guy. He knew exactly where we were going. Any questions we had, we could ask him on the way round, and he was just really friendly, really knowledgeable, and we felt completely safe having him guiding us round. And then we have a driver as well who stayed with us the whole time. So we had Alejandro was our guide, taking us around all these various things, telling us where we needed to be at what times. It's like you're being babysat almost. It's like as soon as you get to the country and you get your transfers out, you meet this guide and they just look after absolutely everything. So we just turn up to restaurants and everything was already prepaid and organised, so he would just we'd go straight in and everything would be served. So yeah, it just took away all of that stress of having to think and plan and book stuff, and especially with a bigger group as well, because you think whenever you're trying to book a table, you're like, where's going to have the room, do we speak the language, how do we pay for this, all of that stuff is already taken care of. So it was just really amazing to be able to experience all of these things but not have any stress of organising or like planning ahead and anything like that. So yeah, it was really amazing.
That's probably one of like the best things about this trip is that it is all inclusive and you don't have to worry about anything or think of where we're going to go next because it is all taken care of. So, like we said earlier, the accommodation is included in the trip. All of your food is included and we'll have the local guide. Trevor said that they are usually someone from the area, so they'll know the stuff. Another great thing about the guides as well is that they'll help us set up the campsites. So I think a few people have been a little bit like apprehensive about the camping side of it, but we'll be helped a lot by the guide. They'll help us set our tents up and make all of the food because we'll be cooking while we're there. So we're not going to be sort of left alone to deal with those sort of things. We're going to be given a lot of guidance and support while we're there. So while this trip is all inclusive, there are a few things that you need to arrange yourself, including the flights. So Trova Trip don't organise the flights just because it's a little bit more complicated with people coming from different locations, potentially different countries. We just need to make sure that we arrange our own flights there and back and that we're there in time for that welcome dinner on the first day. And then we also need to arrange our own visas and jabs. So we'll give you a lot of like help and guidance with this too. But yeah, that is something to think about as well, that you need to arrange your own flights, visas, and jabs. You won't need too much spending money for this trip because, like I said, it is all inclusive. But if there's anything else that you want to purchase along the way, like any souvenirs or alcohol, because that's not included, then you can bring a little bit of spending money with you as well.
It's quite a heavy tipping country, so having a little bit of smaller change is also quite helpful just because gratitude is shown through those sorts of things. So yeah, it's not always expected, but it's just the nice thing to do. It's different to the UK because we don't tip here generally, do we? And it's nice for the guides as well because they do get paid, it is their job, but they go above and beyond. They do a really good job. So yeah, when I travelled with them in Costa Rica and the Galapagos, they just did such an amazing job. We gave them a little something as well. So yeah, worth bringing something along for that.
So the trip is from the 27th of September to the 4th of October, but there is also an option for you to come up a day early as well. If you're looking at your flights and you're worried about them getting in a little bit too close to that welcome dinner, you can come the day before. I think myself and Zoe and a few of the other travellers are planning on doing this as well. So there is an option to book an extra night of hotel accommodation, and we do have some nice plans for that first day as well, going to like a elephant sanctuary. So yeah, that is something to consider as well.
So the cost of this trip is broken up into two different prices depending on where it is in the process that you're booking. So we have 8 early bird slots, which is a slightly discounted price. So if you're one of the first 8 travellers to book in, then you would get it at approximately £2,250. On the website, it is all in dollars because Trover Trip are American and they work in dollars. But yeah, it works out roughly £2,250. If you were to book in after those 8 early bird slots are taken up, there's 20 spots altogether, so there's plenty of room. But the price jumps up a little bit, so the regular price is £2,370 approximately. Again, the dollars is on the Trover website, but most of our audience is from the UK, so we tend to talk in pounds just so that it's not super confusing. But yeah, if you need the dollars, it's all on the website. And you have until the 29th of June to pay the full balance. That's our cut-off for the trip. If you can't make that payment before then unfortunately you wouldn't be able to book in because they need those 90 days before the trip goes ahead to get everything in place and confirm it all. So yeah, we have until the 29th of June to book on and to get your place. Booking on any time before that, you can do it with just the deposit, but then obviously the full balance will still be due by the 29th of June. So the earlier you do it, the more time you have to kind of stagger your payments if you want to do it that way. But if you want to leave it a little bit longer and just double check that you can make it with dates and commitments and what have you, then the 29th is the absolutely last day that you can book on the trip.
So now we'll start going into some frequently asked questions that we've had from like different places about this trip. So when it comes to the flights, we've had a few people ask whether they're able to travel with somebody else because they might be a nervous flyer. And yeah, absolutely, this is something that we can arrange. We're planning on doing some Zoom calls ahead of the trip, where we can all chat, get to know each other, and find out where everyone's coming from. And then if there are like two people from like a similar area, we can go ahead and get them booked onto the same flight. So yeah, that is absolutely something that we can sort out. We're actually planning on doing a Zoom call in a couple of weeks or so, where we can get to meet the travellers already booked on, and anyone who's thinking of coming can have a chat with us as well. But we'll go into that more later on. So the next question is, do we need travel insurance?
Yes, it's definitely recommended to get travel insurance. Obviously, it's a trip that's quite full on. Like, there's a lot of activities. You just need to make sure that you have a travel insurance policy that covers all of those things. It might just be worth double checking it. But yeah, absolutely 100% need to get travel insurance. It's really recommended for this kind of trip, and it isn't included within the booking, obviously, because everyone's got various different needs and what have you. So yeah, you'll have to organise that one separately. But if you have any questions for us while you're looking into it, then just ping them over to us and we can help you any way we can.
Okay, this next one is, do we need to bring anything for camping? So the tents and everything like that will be provided. The only thing that we need to make sure we bring is a sleeping bag and a pillow. Like we said, we've got the local guide at the campsites. They're going to be helping us to put the tent up and stuff like that. So yeah, as long as you've got your sleeping bag, your pillow, battery pack for charging your phone or whatever you want to charge, those are the key essentials that you need to bring along with you. But we do plan on putting together like a packing list for the trip closer to the time, so we won't leave you like worrying about what to bring. We'll help you along every step of the way. So how do you go about organising the visas and jabs?
So jabs are really easy. You can just go through your GP, or some of them you can get them through the pharmacy and places like that. So when you have an appointment with your GP or your nurse at the GP, they put into their system where it is you're going, and then it gives you all of the list of all the different ones you might need, and then talk you through which ones you want to do. Some of them are on the NHS if you're here in the UK, and then others you do have to pay for. But usually the ones that you have to pay for have a lifetime, like it just, you don't have to ever have it again. So they sometimes do seem quite expensive, but because it lasts you the rest of your life, you'd never have to worry about buying that again. And then with visas, this one, we will make sure that everybody's got the right thing. If you need to find out where you need to go, or you just need a bit of help being pointed in the right direction, then we can definitely do that, because we will need them as well, Shannon and I. So, when it comes to doing those, we'll just make sure absolutely everybody on the trip knows what they're doing and that they have the right thing.
So another question that we've had asked quite frequently is, do I share my room/tent with another traveller? So the cost of this trip includes a shared room and tent with one other traveller that will be like pre-arranged ahead of the trip. So you will be having separate beds, you're not going to be sharing a bed or anything like that, but you will be with the same person throughout the whole trip. So every hotel, every campsite, you will be staying with that same person. And of course, we're going to make sure that everyone's comfortable with the person that they're sharing with. This is something that obviously we can all chat about on our Zoom calls ahead of the trip and any in-person meetups that we might do. So is this trip aimed at just artists, or is it for everyone?
We wanted to make it very personal to us, so it does have the arty elements, but it is open to absolutely anybody, anyone who wants to travel to Africa, who's interested in the wildlife. Obviously it's very wildlife based, but it does have a mixture of all sorts. So we have people booked on already who are not artists, they are just interested in travelling in general. So yeah, if you're not super keen on doing the whole arty thing, then that will not by any means alienate you from the group. We'll just, it's going to be a fun part of it that's just a little extra in the downtime. It's not going to be everyone is here because they want to draw a picture. Yeah, so it is really good for anybody, really. It's open to anyone who is interested in anything fun and adventurous, and just, willing to meet new people and have a good time.
Yeah, I can see this trip being really good for people into like photography. Honestly, anything. If you've got an interest in animals, which obviously is the main reason why we're going to Kenya, then I think you're the perfect person to come along and join us.
So, what are you most excited to see on this trip?
I am honestly just excited about the whole thing, but I think it's the safari game drives that are just like, that's been on my bucket list since I even knew that Africa existed. Like when I was watching The Lion King when I was younger, I just always wanted to go and see the animals in the wild. Like it's not the same going to the zoo in England. Like to experience that in their own habitat where they live would just be amazing. But I'm really excited for the group travel aspect of it as well because I've never been on a group travel trip before. Like I've been on holiday with my friends and been to the usual places, but I've never been traveling like this. So to meet new people and to like really dive headfirst into it is something that I'm really excited about. Even seeing like the smaller animals, like we were laughing in the group chat on Instagram about seeing a dung beetle or something like that. Not even just seeing the lions and the elephants and the zebras and stuff. Just every part of it will just be amazing. So I'm really looking forward to it. What are you most excited for?
I'm really excited about being in Africa. It's a place I've always wanted to go. So I have travelled around some pretty amazing places in the world, but Africa is just like the one destination I've yet to visit. And yet it's one of the favourite place for me for wildlife. I'm always drawing and painting African wildlife. So to actually see them in real life and be able to watch them go about their little daily lives and be able to take photos of them and really put the whole story together. Like I've seen this zebra and it was out in the wild in the Masai Mara and now I'm painting it or now I'm drawing it. I think it's like the full circle for me, and I think I'm going to be in tears every time I see a wild giraffe or a zebra or like we were saying a dung beetle, just all of those little things. So yeah, I think it's going to be really special.
That's it. I think I'm the same. I'm going to be crying every time I see something. I'd get really emotional just thinking about it now. So who knows what I'm going to be like when we actually get there.
We're going to be two emotional wrecks. Come with us to Africa. We're just going to cry.
Top of the list, the packing list, tissues.
But the activity side of it though as well is so fun. I've done a zip wire through the Costa Rica jungle and that is absolutely insane. Like you think, oh, it's just going on a zip line like you do in the park, but they strapped us up so that we ended up being like you're kind of lying down and then you can put your arms out. It's like you're flying over the top of the canopy. It is insane.
Not many people can say that they've done that, and it's just grateful to even be given the opportunity to do a trip like this. So yeah, I'm sure that everyone will be probably really excited about seeing all the animals and stuff. So if you do have any more questions, anything at all, drop them in the comments below. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up a Zoom call with anyone that wants to join. We've got the travellers that are booked on already. We're going to get a chance to chat to them, meet them, get to know them. And then if you're thinking of coming on the trip but you're not too sure, you're on the fence, and you'd just like to have a little bit of a chat about it, what I'll do is I'll leave a link in the description below where you can sign up to join a Zoom call with us. We'll let you know about the date and the time and see if you can make it, and it's just a good opportunity to like clear up any last questions because like we said, the trip deadline is the 29th of June, so we haven't got too much time left. So thank you so much, Zoe, for joining me for this video.
Thanks, Shannon. It's been really fun to draw along and to chat more about the trip. I'm really, really excited for it. And yeah, it's going to be super exciting to meet everybody and finally get to Africa. Can't wait.
And of course, if you've got any questions about our drawings in the video, then do pop that in a comment below as well. I'm going to be donating this piece to the East African Wildlife Society, so follow me over on Instagram to see some more updates on the drawing, and of course make sure you go and follow Zoe if you don't already. I will leave a link in the description where you can register your interest and come and join us for the Zoom chat, and I'll also leave the link for the trip page down below where you can make your booking as well. So I really hope you've enjoyed this Draw With Me video. Please give it a like if you did, because it really helps the channel out. Subscribe to see more Draw With Me videos like this, and I shall see you in the next one, and hopefully see some of you over in Kenya. So bye for now.